All right, guys, we're back for How to Human Day five. Five. We're still talking about money, and today we're going to talk about investing and a couple of other things. So, investing. There are a couple of different ways that you can invest money and still be doing what is considered investing. You can invest in stocks, you can invest in bonds, you can invest in market funds, mutual funds. And what stocks are just a percentage of ownership of a company or corporation. So a publicly traded company, one that sells its stock, um, splits the company's ownership into pieces. They decide how big of a piece they want to split it. And so then you can buy a percentage of ownership in that company corporation. So if you buy one stock, that's maybe 1%. Who knows? I don't actually understand how math magic works. But anyway, so if you own, 5% of the company, any profits that company make, you get 5% of them. So, when the market value of a percent of a company changes, so if you buy a stock and it is $5, that's a random number, but if you buy a stock for $5 and 3 years later, the market value that company has done super well and the market value of that stock improves, all of a sudden that thing that you bought is now worth $10. It is twice as valuable as it was before. Plus, you have maybe collected profits, as the company's made money, but it isn't like that stock that you bought is worth $10 now instead of 5. And if you were in a tight spot, you could sell that stock and then you have $10, which means you've made $5 over the last couple of years with this single stock. A bond, on the other hand, is essentially an IOU to the government, or a specific agency, or maybe a company. Most bonds are governmental, but private bonds do exist. And essentially what happens is you say, hello, government, yes, I will give you my, $45, with the understanding that in 10 years or 15 years, whatever the life of the bond is, I will get that $45 back plus a small amount of interest. So in 10 years, when my bond expires, I will get $55 back. And so I still have the $45 that I put into the bond. I didn't lose it, and I have managed to make a little bit of interest. The opposite of good things happening. So remember that $5 stock that I bought that after a couple years was worth $10? It could have gone the other way, and that company could have done really badly, and my $5 stock is now only worth $1, and I have lost $4 in my life if I sell it, or I just hang on to this useless stock in the hopes that the company will eventually do better, or until the company crashes and my stock is worth 0. And then there's such a thing called a mutual fund. And what that is basically, I can't buy enough I feel like I can't buy enough individual stocks to properly get pieces of all of the little things that I feel like I should. So I will get with a group of people and we will all put money in, and now we have a pile of money that can afford whole stocks in lots of different things. So we as a group now own this collection of stocks and bonds. These are collectively called securities. And we as a group are going to make or lose money, but depending on how our mutual fund does. These are usually managed by someone who decides what securities the mutual fund is going to invest in and those kinds of things. So, some tips for starting investing. 1, back in that budgeting thing. Live and save first. Put aside your savings, put aside the stuff that you need to live, and with some money left over, then you can start investing. Thing 2, be realistic. Like, it's hard to do well on the stock market. You have to know a lot, and nobody makes it rich in the stock market. Not really. But it is possible to do well and to make money. But it takes research, so much research, looking at who's doing well, what the market's doing, paying attention to expert predictions, but also not taking too much of them, figuring out what companies are doing well, what types of things do well, so that market trends don't necessarily sweep you under. And it's really, really important to not bail out when things are bad. When that company's stock is now $1 instead of 5, I need to hang on. Because if I sell it right then I've lost those $4. If I hang on to it, there's a chance that I can at least get back to 5 and at least break even if that company never comes back. So it's really important to not bail out when things get bad. You might remember learning about something in your history class about when things got bad and everyone bailed out, and then things got really, really bad because everyone bailed out. It was called Black Tuesday. It happened in 1929, and it was real bad. So don't bail when things get bad. And one of the reasons you might want to invest is so that you can do retirement planning. It is never too soon to start planning for your retirement. It's never too soon to start saving money. And so there are a couple of different retirement funds. So it's essentially setting up a very specific type of bank account for your retirement. And you can, so an IRA gets taken out of your paycheck and it goes into the special account for your retirement before taxes. But when you retire and you start taking money out of your IRA, you will pay income taxes on that money because you have it. A Roth IRA, on the other hand, goes in after taxes. So I get my money, I pay my income taxes on it, and then I stick money in my Roth IRA. There is a cap of how much you can put in per year. It's $6,000 per year. That's all you can put in per year. But when you take the money out, once you retire, you don't pay taxes on it. There are a couple of other fiddly rules about taking things out early and other things like that. But the IRA and the Roth IRA are the two kinds of retirement account that you can just set up as a person. You can go to Fidelity, or you can go to Charles Schwab, or you can go to one of the investment banks, and you can just open an IRA or a Roth IRA on your own. A 401k and a 403b are usually employer sponsored. So what happens is, before your income taxes are calculated, if you want to take out a 401k and a 403 or a 403b, you do that through your employer, and they will, instead of handing it to you in your net paycheck, they will put part of your paycheck in the 401k or 403b. What usually happens is your employer will also put some of their money into your 401k or 403b. That's the match. And so if you say, I am going to put $500 a month in, your employer will also put $500 a month in, and then you have $1,000 a month in your 401k or 403b. Someone in your company or in their benefits company is running the investments in your 401k or 403b. Because what happens is the money doesn't just sit there. People invest it in stocks and bonds and mutual funds in the hopes that it will make more money. You generally also do this in your IRA or your Roth IRA. In a 401k or 403b, you pay taxes when you withdraw the money after retirement in the same way that you would with an IRA. However, it's a whole lot easier to take money out of before retirement than an IRA. If you try and take money out of an IRA before official retirement, there are penalties and fees and stuff. 401ks and 403ps don't usually have as intense penalties. So you can take money out of them, or you can move them. If you are in a 401k and you want to be in a 403b instead, you can transfer. I could not actually tell you the difference between a 401k and a 403b. I just know that they are different because the numbers are different. Your employer may also have a pension program, which is essentially a program in which your employer keeps paying you after you retire, a certain amount of money a month. The thing about starting a retirement fund is it is really important that if you start a retirement fund that you don't take money out of it before you retire. Like, that's right, that's what it's for. However, if you know that money is sitting there and you are really, really struggling financially, it can be really tempting to take money out of that, and sometimes it becomes necessary and you do that. But that is a really extreme situation, and you want to try to avoid it if you possibly can. All right. Another thing about negotiating, I get asked about this every year, about money is negotiating. I get asked about it every year. I've never done it. I don't know how. I don't, it makes me uncomfortable. That's part of the reason I didn't go on the SOS trip to China, because I'm terrified of it. But here's what the internet tells me about negotiating. Ask for what you want. Listen closely to what you're being told by the other person, and do your homework. Figure out value, figure out worth, figure out the culture of negotiation in this particular um, country. If you're negotiating, you are doing one of two things. One, you are traveling in a country where negotiation is a thing that happens. You are in an Asian country or somewhere like that, or you're in America and you're trying to buy a car. Like buying a car is pretty much the only place that negotiation exists in America. So do your homework, figure out what that looks like. If you are in China and you are in a market, you need to know what negotiating in a Chinese market looks like. If you are attempting to buy a car in America, you need to know what that looks like. So do your homework. Don't ever put yourself in a situation where you can't walk away. If you are negotiating to get something, the only way you're going to get the price down is if you are willing to walk away. If you need it badly enough that you cannot walk, you are never going to get the best price. Don't rush. Feel like that's pretty straightforward. Aim high, expect the best. Remember that the other person is also a human being and that they have needs and wants, and pay attention to them. Show them the advantages, like what's good for them in giving it to you your way. This is a mutual exchange. You're not bulldozing anyone. And remember that it isn't personal. If they're not willing to give you the price that you want, if you actually have to, negotiate, it isn't about you specifically. That's just how this interaction works. So, advice from someone completely different about negotiating because I've never attempted it. In fact, I'm terrified of the next time I have to buy a car. Okay. And just a random aside about money, specifically about salary. It is valuable to you to know what other people in your field, other people in your position, and or other people in your company are making. People act like talking about salary is rude or uncouth, and it can be. Don't like this is not trying to figure out who makes more so you can feel important, so that you know you're making more. But like don't be a jerk about it. But knowing what other people are making becomes a bargaining tool if you are negotiating with your manager about what you are making. If you are in the same position and have the same experience as three other people on your team and they're all making more money than you are, like that's a question you need to be asking your manager. If they think they can get away with it, companies will pay you less than you are worth. And knowing how much you are worth, how much people in other fields, how much people in your company and out of your company are making, makes that much easier. Ladies, particularly for you, you need to know what the men in your position are making, because I promise it's more than you. And you're not always going to be able to change that, but when you can, you should. Okay, I will see you again tomorrow, and we're going to talk about taxes, because I know you all have many questions.